So what I love doing with clients is like helping them to take those first little steps and say like, this is what I'm dreaming. This is actually, and I have found that when they do that, like when people fully admit to themselves what they want and they start to take those first steps, like just those little steps that we talk about in our podcast, like finding inspiration, just taking a class, reaching out to somebody, that like really it's like the universe kind of conspires with you and like creates these steps with you. It's wild.
If you have followed the rules but feel unsatisfied with where that's gotten you, this podcast is for you.
We'll help you learn how to reach your goals through creativity, intuition, and flow.
Welcome to the Flow into Authenticity podcast. Hello, everybody. We're back.
You're like, chill out, Allison.
My voice is calm. No, we don't want you to calm down, Allison. That's your preferred state of excitement.
Okay.
And joy.
Yes. I could see this in my daughter. She's always like, I'm going to go about my day. I'm going to go about my day.
Is that what she says?
Yeah, she says that.
Oh,
she's
so
too.
cute.
She's very, very cute. And she goes, Big Tittle. Her name's Matilda, and she used to not be able to pronounce it, so she calls herself Tittle. It's very cute. But she's like, Big Tittle. It's really adorable.
She's got a cheer for herself. That's so cute.
Yes, it's very cute. Yeah, we should all have that.
I know. I just I don't know. Like I have a calm. I'm like very sensitive to like noise.
I know.
So
I know. I know this about you.
Yeah. So I'm just like always trying to be like chill, but I can get like you've seen me get excited and weird. Like I have a very weird, like goofy side of myself, which I don't share very often. Actually, my therapist was like, why don't you share your goofy side? And I think that is like kind of in my shadow part too. So
yeah,
I think you bring that out in me.
Given that you have headaches all the time, it totally makes sense that you're like, okay, everyone, we're going to get into this. Are you ready?
It's the yin and yang.
Yes.
Yin and yang.
I'm sad Leslie's not here. We were talking with her earlier, and she has the best voice, and it was very sexy today.
Yes.
It's like, we need this.
She does have a very sexy voice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we Leslie's going through some stuff, so we don't know how when she's going to make it back in, but she will be back one of these days.
Yes.
And today we're going to talk about dreams, dreaming big. Do we need to dream big? Are you trying to talk sexy? We are, yes. Dreaming big. Do we need to dream big? Do we just go with the flow? Like, why? How does it all work? How does it work? We're going to talk about it. And we don't have the answers either, by the way.
You just sounded like Carol Channing trying to talk sexy.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, man. That's great. I'm not even going to try because it's going to sound like a clown trying to be sexy.
People have told me that my voice is very soothing. So
it is. Yes, absolutely.
And I have meditations that I've recorded that are soothing.
Yes. I would love to listen to those meditations that you've recorded. That sounds great. So one of the inspirations for today's show is kind of weird. I asked my husband, James, who is our sound editor, by the way, and created the theme for this podcast. So he's involved.
Yay, James.
Woohoo! I asked him, I was like, what should we talk about in our next episode? And he had an interesting response. He's like, okay, is it better to have a lot of different projects that you're working on at the same time, like creative projects? Or is it better to just have one that you really focus on? And I thought, wow, that's a cool question. I don't know how I could talk on that subject for 40 minutes, but it's a really neat question. And so Esther and I were talking about it, and we thought, well, what if we expanded this idea to just thinking more generally about um, dreams, having big dreams, and maybe those big dreams include doing a lot of things and, juggling them all at once, or maybe those big dreams involve like really focusing on some big goal or project that you're really excited about. But anyway, I'm stretching a little bit to try and make a link between that question and our topic today. But yeah, it's relevant.
Well, yeah, I think, this is really relevant to me because I too talk a lot. I work with a lot of creatives, and a lot of us are neurodivergent, have ADHD. And what that means is that we like to do a lot of different things. And I also know that when I work with clients that this is one of the most difficult things to pin down is, what are your big dreams? And so we're going to get into like, why is it so difficult for us to kind of dream big and to focus? And do we really need to? Why? So we've talked about this a bit before, about the brain and why it's important to create an intention, right? Because when we create an intention in anything in our life, we've talked about the yoga class before, creating an intention, it informs the steps that we need to take to get there. Right.
Yes.
And so I was thinking about this the other day, and I was like, I really want to make this year, I really want to focus on what I want to achieve and not get distracted by a lot of the things that come to me, like offers of, maybe showing my work here or there. And this is what I see with a lot of my clients, is that, especially for artists, we get distracted by opportunities that come to us. And you've talked about this before, Allison.
Oh my
but
gosh.
it's like,
Yeah. It's not just artists. I experience that constantly.
So like, how do we like envision our dream and then kind of, or our intention, and like stick to it? And I think a lot of times it's more difficult, right? To, first of all, even dream big. And then second of all, to take the small steps necessary and be patient to take those small steps towards our dreams. It's a lot of times harder than taking the easy, like, things that kind of come to us that people might want us to do. And those can be like such a big distraction, but then we end up getting frustrated because we never end up like reaching the goals that we want. So yeah, that was kind of what I thought like a couple of days ago. I don't know if I was waking up or going to sleep, but that's what I thought about, is like, I really want to be intentional this year.
Yes, because those things do come your way, and maybe they like they feed your ego when you get a certain invitation, or maybe you feel a sense of responsibility to do something. But there are lots of requests that we get in our lives where we have to make a decision about whether to say no or say yes. And there might be kind of tangential reasons we want to say yes, even if that thing is going to be taking us further away from our goals. But if you have this big dream in mind and you really prioritize saying yes to things that sort of get you closer to achieving this big dream, it just becomes a lot clearer that you have to say no to other things.
Yeah. That's one of the hardest things.
for me, one of the hardest things is when I get an invitation to speak, like at a conference or special event. When I have to prepare a new talk, it takes me like several weeks of work. I need to
Yeah.
spend 10 hours one week to put together my slides, and then 10 hours the next week to practice the talk. And I think about it for months, sometimes ahead of time. So it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of energy, especially because I have speaking anxiety. So I spend a lot of time just being stressed out about having
Yeah.
to go in front of other people. And I finally just recently realized this about myself. And now I'm so much more selective about what speaking things I say yes to. Um, and I only say yes if it sounds really super fun,
Yeah.
or if doing so is going to push me to develop something that I want to develop in service of my big dreams. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that
So,
example. Yeah, I have my own kind of examples.
yes, yeah, you were mentioning the gallery exhibit, or you mentioned something about that, and that's what
Yeah.
triggered that memory. So,
Mm-hmm.
so tell us more about that.
Yeah, I mean, I get, I sometimes get asked to do like shows in different places and um and this has been like throughout my career where I've had to, I feel like I feel like most of the time I have like more opportunities than I have energy for. And,
Hmm.
and so um, I, I find that, a lot of times they don't bring income in, number one. And then second, that they're not really leading me towards like my bigger dreams of where I want to show my art
Eh.
and and so yeah, it's like and I think there's a place where when you're first kind of starting out, it's good to experiment with a lot of different things and find out what you really like and find out where you want to be, right? You probably have experienced that when you were first kind of starting out of like, let me experiment and see if I like this or this or this,
Totally,
And I think
totally.
like that is part of the F, right? If you've been following our framework,
Yeah.
finding inspiration. But I want to go back to talking about like why it's so difficult to kind of dream big in our lives. And I mentioned that with my clients, it's one of the most difficult things to get to. And it sometimes takes like literally 3 months for us to get to the point where they're like, actually, this is what I want.
Yes.
Not this because I
Yes.
think that, it's the only way that I can make money. Not this because it thinks
Hmm.
what my art should be like or what my career should look like. But actually, deep down, I want this.
Yes.
And why is it so hard, do you think, for us to get to that place? Like when I used to teach workshops too, it was like, I mean, it was really for most of the people,
Hmm.
it was really difficult.
It's because this is why there is an L in the flow framework or the
Yeah.
flow
Yeah.
method. Because the first step of achieving something really big, doing your dream, having a dream and then making it happen. The first step is finding inspiration, but the second step is letting go of your assumptions, your limiting
Mm.
beliefs. And that is a really important step because we have a lot of constraints on what we can do. And, maybe those constraints actually do constrain us like 50%, but in our minds, they constrain us like 95%. So, I think we take the limitations, the very real limitations that we have in our lives, like I have little kids, or I have to take care of an elderly parent, or I have some chronic illness. And we take those constraints and make everything about that constraint and
Yeah.
don't recognize that it's possible to have that constraint and yet accomplish something that's getting us closer to our dream. So I think,
Yeah.
yes.
And I think a lot of times, so there's so many reasons, I think. There's one of them is that we've been hurt before, right? We've been disappointed
Oh, yes.
before. So and like it can be really hard for some of us to want to dream again, to dream about, and second, like I always talk about, your brain will tell you what it's seen before. So, right. So it's on we need to be able to see to believe that something's possible, right? So if we don't see
right.
that,
Like role models.
That's why we always talk
Yes.
about role models. So having like role models to teach us, somebody that kind of is like us, that has achieved this thing, is possible, right? And like also expanding sort of our trust in ourself, our capacity to trust ourselves, right? And to trust the universe, trust ourselves, and to trust life.
Yes.
That it can give us and bring us what we really want, and I think for us, we're kind of lucky because we both had parents who were like, you can do anything, kind of like,
right.
Like had a bigger picture view of like anything's possible. I mean, as much as I talk about like the struggles with my family, that's something that I am super grateful for, is that my parents were like, the sky's the limit. Like, whatever you want to do it, and like always taking chances, always risking things on their dreams, and so like having
That's
those
amazing.
Yeah, having those role models, if you didn't have that, that can be hard to dream. So another one is, one of my clients just recently told me, when we kind of got to that point of discovering or uncovering what they really wanted to do, was they told me that they were afraid to admit it because they were afraid of success.
Oh, yes.
So we talk about fear of failure, but what about fear of success? Like, let's talk about that. That's always confused me a bit.
I don't understand that one,
yeah.
but I have heard that. Yes,
yeah. Maybe that's because both of our upbringings. I don't know.
I'm sorry. We'll need a special guest for that one, because I have
no
idea what that even means, but I have seen it before.
Well, I guess I can experience, I can understand this, because when I do achieve things, it feels really overwhelming to my nervous system. Like, I don't have the capacity to like feel successful and to really take it in. You know what I mean? To be like, okay. And even when people say things to me like, you really like helped me so much, it's really hard for me to take that in and really, so I think like when we do not have the capacity in our nervous system to hold success, this is why when people win money, they just blow it, right? Because it's like, we are
don't know how to handle it.
Yeah, we're afraid of that. Like, what? And I think like this is a lot of my fear around money too. It's like, sometimes we still see ourselves as like a young child or something. Can I handle like financial success? Can I handle career success? There's something in our subconscious that really is afraid. Yeah.
Well, and I can imagine, if you're pretty introverted, doing something that draws attention to you might be very scary.
Yeah. And it can just be really scary to admit to yourself that you want something. You really, I mean, this is like half of the work that I do. Most of the work that I do with clients is getting to the point where you could really admit what is calling you deeply. like
Mm-hmm.
beyond the surface level things.
Wow. Well,
So
and there's a lot of, can you be afraid of failure and success at the same time? I think so.
I think so.
There's a
Yeah,
lot of fear
I
of
think
failure
so.
wrapped up in it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think those are all really good examples of like why it's so hard for us to dream big, you know?
Well, and the other one that we haven't talked about very much is that we seek safety. So I'm thinking of
Mm-hmm.
some of the big risks that you've taken
Ugh.
have led to like a lack of financial safety. Like when you take a step, like
Yeah.
quit a job, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to try this new thing and I don't know how it's going to go. Like that is getting rid of a huge source of safety, feeling of security. And that is a very hard step to take.
Yeah. And I think that part of the, like I've talked about the trauma that kind of reasserted itself in my body the last couple of years. I do think that that kind of lack of safety was part of that, trying to start two new businesses at the same time again. It was literally felt like that trauma lives in your body. Your brain remembers it. And and for me, I'm really good at taking leaps because of my parents, like, but it's sometimes to the detriment of myself, right? Of my own feeling of safety. But you might be the opposite, afraid to take risks because your brain is telling you that's safety. Because I always had the role models of like, it'll work out, it's going to work out, and I can hold that space for myself and for my clients too. But
Right.
but yeah, we have to balance that feeling of safety versus our dreams. Like that's a huge, huge thing.
And for a
Yeah.
lot of people, I mean, those are real issues that keep
Yeah.
people from dreaming big. Like you have constraints, you have real need for safety, you have like real fears of failure and success.
Mm-hmm.
But we often live in that world
Yes.
too much. And
Yes.
what we're arguing today is that you need to balance out that need for safety and all the practical considerations. You need to balance that with being open to making dreams, figuring out what your dreams would be. Because if you have a big dream, I think the mistake that we make sort of in our heads is like, if we say this is our dream, that means we have to go out and achieve it
Right.
tomorrow.
Right. That's just,
But
yeah.
if you have a big dream, like maybe that's your 20-year plan,
Yeah.
but it helps inform these small steps you could be taking now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Like that Steve Jobs quote I always talk about. We cannot see, and this is what keeps so many people from dreaming, I think, is we can't see the steps. We can't plan the steps. So we can't plan those steps. We don't know all the steps that are going to happen
Mm-hmm.
and that the universe is going to conspire with us to make happen.
Mm-hmm.
When we start stepping out, we can't see that. We can't see the 5-year plan necessarily
Yes.
to our dreams. So we figure, right? We have these assumptions that it's not going to be, we can't happen. It can't happen because of this, because of this, because of this. So what I love doing with clients is like helping them to take those first little steps and say like, this is what I'm dreaming. This is actually, and I have found that when they do that, like when people fully admit to themselves what they want and they start to take those first steps, like just those little steps that we talk about in our podcast, like finding inspiration, just taking a class, reaching out to somebody, that like really it's like the universe kind of conspires with you and like creates these steps with you. It's wild, like coincidences, things that happen. So, but yeah, like we have to, I mean, I'm not going to say we have to, like, let's talk about this, is like, maybe there's some people who just go with the flow and it's cool. Like, I want to talk about that too. But like, we know from the neuroscience, it's just neuroscience, that when we have an intention, that just in creating that intention, it tells our brains to create
value tag.
Create the next step and the next step and
Yes.
focus so that you can say no to the things that are, your depleters, like we talked about last time.
But this is totally related to value tagging. If
Yeah,
you have
it
that
is.
big dream, then that thing that seems like a coincidence, maybe you wouldn't have noticed it before.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly what it, and it's like, okay, is it like the universe? Is it our brains seeing those? I don't know, but
yes,
it feels like magic. Like
those connections were always there.
Yeah,
but when you make the dream, you can see it.
You got it. You
can value tag it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Totally.
And it does feel like magic.
It feels like magic.
Whoa, this just came out of thin air, but it was always there. You just had to uncover it.
Yeah, it's really cool. So yeah, I see this all the time in working with people and in my own life, and that's why I'm so thankful for like my parents being able to teach me that, like, of, okay, just step out and then like those connections are going to happen, and seriously, like I've been in places where I'm like, I don't know, man. Like selling our house, I was like, I don't know if I'm trust. It's like a big trust, right? It's like a huge feeling of trust. And I'm like, man, I could fall straight on my face.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing, but I just feel like I need to follow this vision,
Well, let's talk about our dreams. Let's throw out some examples.
Yeah.
So, do you have one at the ready? Can you talk about what's a big dream or a big vision that you have for your life?
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's scary even to like talk about this stuff, like in front of all these people we don't know. I feel that fear of talking about it. And also we want to talk about like how your dreams change over the years. Cause we, both of us had dreams like when we were younger, they're different now. So I think, I am constantly reevaluating this and asking my intuition. So this is where the intuition comes in big time. When I kind of switched from doing illustration into art and from teaching into coaching, I was doing a lot of classes and I was doing like a lot of teaching in that way, and showing my work in smaller venues. And so I've been feeling more and more that I want to focus on speaking to bigger crowds, and then writing, this book we're writing. So really writing and speaking, not necessarily like having classes all the time. And this is really hard for me.
Why is it so hard?
Yeah. So I've been feeling this, and a lot of times I describe it as a call, something that's calling you.
Yeah.
I kind of hate that word because of my religious upbringing.
I know.
Like, am I bringing it back? Bring it back.
Reclaim it.
Yeah, reclaim it. But that's how I feel it. It's like, that's how my intuition kind of speaks to me, is like something's calling me. And it's kind of difficult because, I was teaching classes for so long, and I know that that's a way to bring in, not just bring in income, but to support people. And I really love the idea of like community. But anyway, I really feel like speaking and teaching is on like a bigger scale, is something and writing has really been calling me. And it's difficult because I don't have a stream of income necessarily with those things, and so it's always kind of pushing me to go into that trust space. And with my art, it's like I want to show in like bigger spaces, in galleries that kind of focus on more of my kind of art, and have and doing like installation, even like bigger. So there's bigger kind of visions of like how I see my work being interacted with. And so, yeah, those things are really calling me, and I'm just want to focus on, the baby steps to getting there.
Mm-hmm. Can you say what's one thing that you've kind of value tagged or one priority that has shifted since you kind of realized that was your dream?
Yeah, I think the hardest thing was the classes not having,
Mm,
and this has been like a couple years of like, okay, well, in my mind, right? My logical mind is like, this is what you need to do. And really trying to shift out of that because I don't have the energy to do all of these things, And so
right.
really saying no to doing those kind of things, and also like maybe some places that wanted to show my work that weren't really in alignment, just to
Mm-hmm.
be able, yeah, to say no to some of those things and focus on what reaching out to other places. And yeah,
That
it's
kind of
scary.
it's one way to answer James's question about is it better to focus on one thing or have a bunch of different things going on? And what I hear you saying is it's great to have some different things going on if they're kind of connected to each
Yeah.
other
Mm-hmm.
and it's not too many things.
Yes. And I would say also like, if you listen back to our podcast, when you're first kind of starting out trying to figure out what your dreams are, try a lot of things, right? So that's why, like, when we're in art school, we're in school, we're trying a lot of different things to see what sticks, and we're listening to our intuition to what we like. So I think in that stage, don't feel bad about trying things.
A million
But
things.
what I used to tell my students is that the more you get along the way in your career, you're going to just drop something every year. Just drop
Mm.
something that's not lighting you up, you know?
It's kind of like looking in your closet. It's like, oh, I need to throw that sweater
Yeah.
out. That's just not, it's
Not
like
me
totally
anymore.
Marie Kondoing
It's like
your
that was
life.
like 20, that was 2009 me. That's not like 2023 me.
Exactly. Yeah. So let go of thing. If you have an interest that's kind of like, oh, yeah, that's kind of
Right.
cool, but you're feeling like you don't have enough time for the things that are priorities for you, then, you can let some of those things go in service of doing things that are going to get you further towards your dreams.
And I think people really underestimate this, how
Mm,
much energy it gives you
mm.
to start to fulfill what really lights you up when you start saying, when you letting go of those things. So,
Yes.
yeah. So what about you? What are your big
I'm one of
dreams
these
now?
people who's like, I don't really want to know specifically what my dream is, what my
Yeah,
future holds.
I like that.
I
Well, now this is not how you used to be, I think, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. But what I'm always thinking about is this opportunity going to help me develop a skill that I think is really interesting? Like, I just became the editor of this magazine and I've done a bunch of editing, but not at this level before. And so I thought, like, oh, this is a cool opportunity to help me get to really hone my editing skills and like get better at curating things and develop new connections in the math community. So when I look at different opportunities, I look at like what skills of mine are they using and what skills are they going to help me develop? Because I think it's really
Yeah.
exciting to, um, you know, imp- be constantly growing, be constantly improving. Um, that's not I don't know if that's a great answer. I
No,
guess
it
the
is.
other,
I think it is because it really shows You don't have to have like a specific dream or specific goals necessarily, but like what I tell people at the beginning of the year, I like to kind of think about what am I saying no to? What am I saying yes to based on our values? Like what you want to be doing, what lights you up, right? And like
Mm.
setting that as the intention instead of like I have some big dream, like
Yes.
necessarily.
Well, and this relates to my book writing too. Or book writing and editing. So let me tell you about my books. My first book was just a collection of math papers, like math research papers. Okay, that's cool. Uh, my second book was a textbook that was written for like a very interactive, active learning sort of math class. My third book was a collection of stories written by mathematicians about times when they really struggled in their education or career and how they persevered. My fourth book was a how to guide for faculty on how to mentor students through research. Now I'm losing track of the books. The fifth book is a
Oh my
guide for
gosh.
students on how to be successful at being math majors
Hmm.
and how to imagine what comes after college. And now I'm working on two other books, one with Esther about, this whole flow framework, and the other one is about magic tricks and how they connect with mathematical ideas.
Oh,
And
cool.
so you can tell, I just wanted to say all those things so you get, oh, there's another book I published that's an encyclopedia of knot theory. So it's like a
Oh my
reference
gosh.
manual, like a reference resource, and it's like 1,000-page book, and it's very heavy.
Whoa.
Um, so anyway, I wanted to say all of these things so you get a sense for like the different kinds of thing. I kind of don't ever want to do a book that's like too similar to anything I've done before
Mm-hmm.
because I
Yeah.
really get excited about like, oh, could I do this? Could I, create a reference manual? Could I write a textbook? Could I like write a novel? Maybe the next thing is like writing a children's book or something. But I kind of
Yes.
want like every project to be something different
Different. I
because
love that.
it's just so
Yeah.
interesting to
And it
me.
helps. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. It helps you grow. And like that's, one of your values is fun and growth. And yeah, I love that. So it's like, it's kind of an exploration
Hmm.
in real time of like who you are, what you're excited about, and what
And by
lights
the
you up.
way, every one of these projects is with people. I've never done a
Mm,
solo project. And so that's the other half of it. Like half of
yeah.
it is what's the project? Why is it new and
Mm,
interesting? And then the other half of it is who are the people I'm working with?
yeah.
And what will
Yeah.
be awesome about working with those people. And that was actually the inspiration for me reaching out to you about the book that we're working on now is like, okay, I don't know what the project is, but I know the person
Yeah.
I want to do it with is
Wow.
Esther.
I think that's such a good, for me too, like everything that I've done is like with the people that were really inspiring to me. And I think that's such a great clue. And Stephen Kotler talks about this in one of his books, but like when you're moving through this process of trying to reach your goals and like just grow, like not even reach your goal, but just like grow and create a life that you're, passionate about, or you you can't really get there without other people, and you find your people along the way, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, and it's such like an important part that we sometimes don't think about when we're starting out. Like who's going to come into my life, who's going to want to collaborate with me. We don't know those
Yeah.
things when we're thinking about our dreams.
It's funny when I started grad school, I had this expectation that you choose your grad advisor based on what type of math they do. And what I discovered, which, my my older grad student mentors helped me discover this, is that it's so much more important to pick someone who you work well with first.
Yeah.
And then the secondary consideration is what type of math they do. And that was
Yeah.
like shocking to me. Like, oh, it's not just about this pure mathematical endeavor, but it's also about like, who do you collaborate well with? What kind of mentoring do you need?
Yeah, I think that's something that's so missing from our culture is this connection with other people. And we forget that, like we need to be seen and by other people. We need to be like in the collaborative creative space that comes when we work with other people and the magic that comes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so curious, like how your dreams have changed, like from when you were younger. We can talk about that. So, like, because I think it's good to talk about like all the different ways that we can dream and then we can follow our dreams. Like, some people are just like, go with the flow, like, more like you just said, how you are now, of kind of having the intention of just growing, and
Mm-hmm.
some people are really focused and want to really achieve specific things. So tell us
Oh,
about, because
yeah.
I've watched you really achieve a lot of things in your life, and that's was so beautiful and impressive, and have go through struggles too, but like
Uh-huh.
keep going in what you wanted to make in your life. So like
Yes,
share a little bit about that.
yeah, so you're right that this is the freeing thing about being where I am in life right now, is that I can have these like really amorphous sorts of dreams. But before it was like, okay, I'm going to meet my husband. I'm going to have a baby. I'm going to have another baby. Somewhere in there, I'm going to get my PhD. I'm going to get a tenure track job. I'm going to get tenure. I'm going to become full professor. And now I have a husband, a house, two kids. I'm full professor. I have all this stuff. You know, I've done all checked all those boxes where it's like, okay, this is a very specific and very big goal, and it's going to take a lot of different kinds of work and effort and connections and support to get there. But all of those things I've done, so now it's just like, what comes next? This is what I imagine, like there'll be something like this when I retire someday. I know a lot of people who've recently retired, and I'm sure it's just like, huh, okay. What do I do now? It's a totally different kind of dreaming that you can let yourself do once you've checked like all the big life boxes that you want to check.
That's so interesting. And I just love, like, we're writing a book together, so we're talking a lot about our life, both of our lives, and how we've kind of gotten to these things. And my story is like a bit different, I guess, in that I didn't know. I don't know. Like, I guess I had dreams, but they never turned out the way that I thought they were going to. And I really struggled to, I think the difference between you and I is I didn't have a sense of self. And
Mm,
that's been my journey, right? So
right.
I think so many of us, we have different journeys in life.
Hmm.
And I listen to a lot of like near death experiences. So I kind of think about that a lot. Like when people have near death experiences, like they die and then they go to the other side and then they tell their story. And
Uh-huh.
it's so similar a lot of times. Like people come back and say, well, we're here to learn something, or to pretty much like to love each other, but also to learn things. And I just wonder if we have different lessons in this life. Like it
Huh.
makes me wonder, like, it was my lesson to kind of balance, achievement and then sort of letting go, because we're,
Mm.
trying to go on this journey of like discovering who I am, what I want. And I don't know. So like for me, I kind of there's been like a couple of kind of themes, right? But I didn't know a lot of like I didn't know I was going to become a teacher, right? And but it was a
Huh.
theme in my life that I
Well,
wanted to like help people and discover things about people and learn about people. And then there was the art thing where I wanted to go to I knew I wanted to go to art school. Um
how old
and
were you when you knew that you wanted to go to art school? When did that come up and how did it come up?
yeah, it was in high school. And so so these things kind of, I just found out like, oh, I like, theater, I like art, and art really connected. And I had a lot of different, speaking of different interests, like I had so many different interests. And so it was a lot of
Mm.
like exploring. So in high school, we took this trip to in my art class, we took a trip to the art school in Minneapolis. And,
Hmm.
and I just felt like, whoa, this is a dream, right? This is a dream. But then it felt like out of reach for me, And so,
Interesting. So it felt
yeah.
out of reach. So I want to know a couple things about that. Why did it feel out of reach? And how is it that you came to realize that you could go to art school?
Oh my gosh. It was like 10 years of like making a bunch of mistakes. Yeah, I ended up going to Bible school instead because I think it felt safer. And then also, like, I did actually want to become a therapist and had interest in psychology. So I had that interest there. So, but it felt a little bit safer. For me, there was a lot of unknowns with art. Like, I didn't know anybody who went to art school. Was I going to, like, lose my religion or, like, become, so I don't know. Like, it felt very scary. So again,
Mm.
like following those little pings or those little like nudges from your intuition, it like can feel really scary. I ended up going
Wait
to
a minute.
yeah.
So you didn't have a role model. That's what I'm hearing. You
I
didn't have a
didn't
role model for pursuing art school, pursuing
no,
art.
not really. I mean, my parents were like, do what you want pretty much, like you can if you want to, but I didn't know. My dad was going to become an artist and he became a pastor, right? So that just shows you. So that was my role model. So,
Mm.
yeah, but I had to go through getting married. Like, I went through like Bible school, trying to become a missionary. Oh my God. Um, and then, yes, I'm sorry. Um, Hilarious. Okay. And then what else I got married, right? And
Yeah.
so I went through all of that before I came back around to my love. And then I also was like trying acting. I was trying like a bunch of things. So I think for some of us, like it just takes a little bit longer to kind of, and for me, what I've discovered is that I actually have to do the thing in order to
Yeah.
know if it's right. I'm like a kinesthetic learner. I have to do
Mm.
something. I have to make the mistake. I have to get my hands
Right.
dirty. That's why I
Uh-huh.
can't have like 5-year plans and stuff because I have to actually just listen to my intuition along the way, make those mistakes, and then come back around. So everything that had kind of called me in my life has come back around to me. I got my teaching job just out of the blue. Would never have thought that I would become a teacher.
Yeah. So talk
So,
more about that. What is it that made you say yes to that? Because we were just talking about decision making and when things you don't
mhm.
expect come to you, what goes into the process of deciding to say yes or no?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think for me, I've talked about this before on this podcast, I think, but I had been like a freelance illustrator and then the crash of 2009 happened. And I was like, what am I going to do? And I had this sense. So for me, like a lot of it comes down to feeling. I had this sense that I wanted to help people, right? Coming back to that, like
Mm.
one of the things that's always kind of called me, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I mean, I was an illustrator. It was like, what am I? And I got this email like randomly, somebody asking me if I wanted to teach, and it just felt right. Like it just felt like it was scary. But then the first time I was in the classroom, I was like, whoa, I'm like better at this than I've ever been at anything before. And I had said many times in my life that I didn't want to teach.
Huh. Why did you
Yeah.
think you didn't want to teach before?
Because my growing up, I was a little like rebel. I was a little like feminist, and all of the role models were like either nurses, teachers, missionary, pastor's wife, right? Like these are the role models for women. And I was like, no, I don't want to be a teacher because that's what women do. I don't know. It just made sense to my little brain. So it's really interesting, I think, like how, just coming back to the dreams thing, it's like, it's not, I think this culture teaches us that we should have a dream and that it's not fluid, right? We have to create like our 5 and 10-year plan.
Right.
But I really like to think about it as, I don't know if I like the word co-creation with the universe, but it's like a dance with life.
Yeah.
You know, if we do come to this life to learn something, it's like, well, shouldn't we be paying attention to like what it is like what's been calling me my whole life, like what's been kind of drawing me, and also what I want, right? So what I want is that creation.
And don't confuse what other people expect you to do with your calling as well. That's really important because I feel like that was part of your early story.
Yes. So for my whole life was kind of teasing out who am I versus what other people want me to be. So, and it's still going on, you know, and like what I said with the classes, it's like, okay, I know that people want me to teach, but like, is it what I want? I don't know. Like, it's still a struggle for me to kind of tease those things out. And if we're really enmeshed in that when we're young, that's the journey. And it's about the journey. I really feel like it's about the journey. It's about growing.
Totally.
It's about expanding. Don't focus, you know, all of your things on the dream, because when you get there, you might just be really miserable if you didn't enjoy the journey of it, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It is all about the journey because we never quite achieve that thing. And so if we're like,
we don't.
I'm not going to be happy till I achieve that thing. Well, if you spend 10 years being miserable to try and achieve that thing, and then, it turns out that thing makes you miserable too. Like, what was
I have experienced that. That's another part. Yeah. I've experienced that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the dream can't be the only thing that brings you joy and life. A dream, I think, is good, like you're saying, if the process to get there also has these moments of joy and inspiration, and you feel like you're in the right place, you feel like you belong.
I
So
think both of us have a really interesting balance of like achievement, loving, because I think that's one of our values is like loving to achieving things, and then also kind of this balance of enjoying that journey too,
the process.
The process.
Like us writing our book.
Oh my gosh.
It'll be great when there's a book out there. But if we didn't enjoy working with each other, and that, you know, that's again why I think it's important to have good people that you're working with and collaborating with. If we didn't enjoy working with each other, man, this would be a very shitty dream.
Yes, right. So all those things that we've talked about in this podcast, like values and all those things, I think can be just as important, if not as important as the dream, So,
Yeah.
yeah. So what should we leave people with the 4%? We didn't
Well,
talk
I think it's clear. I think maybe free writing about what you want your dream to be. What are all the pieces? What are the things where you think, "Oh, if I could do that, that would be cool." And it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be practical. Like let go. Just let
Yeah.
yourself dream a little bit.
Can you,
Let go
can
of some of the practical concerns.
get really, this is what I want people to do. Get really, 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 really honest. Like, what are the things that light you up that you dream about, And yeah, free write about that. Like, if you could be or do or have anything, like, what is it? Yeah. And just let
Yes.
yourself dream. Yeah.
I think that is that gives me a sense of freedom just talking about that activity. I hope that our listeners feel the same way. Like just allow yourself to dream. And like you said, Esther, this isn't something where like, okay, I'm going to figure out my dream. Okay, I'm just marking that
No.
as my dream
Yeah.
for life. This is something that maybe you come back to once a year or, once every few months or as needed. But get the process started. Give yourself a little bit of time and space to just dream.
Yeah, I love
Yep.
that. Well, thank you all. We'd love to hear from you if you have any comments or, if there's a big truck outside. Oh.
Comments, questions,
Comments, questions, and
concerns, compliments, all the
yeah.
C words.
And if you want to leave a review for our podcast, that would be amazing if you have found it helpful. Oh, we love you guys, and we're so thankful for everybody who's listening. And I hope this has really helped you to kind of think about your dreams and the different ways that we can dream. I love it.
Yes. And one other thing, if you want to reach out, we would love to take requests for topics that you would love to hear us dedicate a show to. That would be very interesting. I know that Esther crowdsourced one of our show topics, which was how to make space for creative work. And I thought that was such an interesting topic. So if you have any requests, I feel like a DJ. we're taking requests.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's all for me today. Is that all for you?
Yes, I am done. I am I'm
finished. Sticking a fork in.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Flow into Authenticity is hosted by Esther Loopstra, Leslie Blumenstein, and me, Allison Henrich. Our original theme music is by James Wetzel. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share Flow into Authenticity from your favorite podcast app.